France launches checks on dozens of mosques. The French authorities have launched investigations into dozens of mosques suspected of links to Islamist extremism. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin announced the crackdown, saying some could be closed if found to be encouraging quote-unquote separatism. Mr. Darmanin said there would be special surveillance for 76 mosques, 16 in the Paris region. He ordered immediate action concerning 18 mosques. In a tweet, he called it a, quote, massive and unprecedented action to combat separatism, end quote. State inspectors will examine their financing, their imams' international connections, and investigate Quranic schools for children. Darmanin stressed that, quote, nearly all Muslims in France respect the laws of the Republic and are hurt by radicalization, end quote.
So just quickly want to say that if you endorse this or reject this right away based on the nature of the news, then either way you're right or you're wrong. Okay. Like if you say like, this is great, I love this, go Macron, and you don't even check if it was how, like if this is not a red flag for you, or like, okay, is this like, are these Muslims' rights being infringed on? Are they being harassed in a way? If that's not a red flag for you, then you are on the wrong side. Because you know, but also from the other side, if you don't look into this, maybe if you think, oh, this is Islamophobia, this is like violations of people's freedom of expression, and you haven't checked to see maybe it was done correctly, either way you're wrong. Okay, the only way to know whether or not this is being done properly, or whether anyone's rights being violated, or whether this is okay, this is a good measure against Islamic extremism in France, is to actually go look at the cases. Susanna, you had your hands up.
Yeah, so I don't know much about, I have a very limited understanding of Mr. Who's the Inspector Minister, Gérald Darmanin's background. I have seen some statements from him that made me a little bit skeptical about some of his positions on this, maybe, but I liked some of the things that were highlighted in this article that he said. So, for example, the 76 mosques that are getting checks or extra surveillance on them are only a fraction of the mosques in France. There are roughly 2,600 Muslim places of worship in France. And so Mr. Darmanin said that fact showed that, quote, we are far from a situation of widespread radicalizations among Muslims in France. And then that's when he said, nearly all Muslims in France respect the laws of the Republic and are hurt by that radicalization. So I really like the fact that he highlighted that. So he's like, because the last news that we'll cover, a lot of people are going to be criticizing the French government for quote unquote Islamophobia, basically.
Yeah, I think
appropriately, we should all be concerned about the rights of Muslims being infringed upon, given the nature of the events that have happened in France recently. And so it's not wrong to ask questions. It's not wrong to be skeptical. But again, as Armin highlighted, we need to wait to see how these are implemented.
Right.
But it's okay. It's important to demonstrate that they are trying to be they are being careful about the way that they talk about it, and they're highlighting continually that this is a minority of the places of worship in France.
I just want to stress, when I say it, to me, it seems like France government is doing all of these all of the reactions they have had and all the measures they're taking. It seems like most of them are good. Okay, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have red flags and be careful, and like, because when you see government coming in and closing down mosque or anything else, you should be like, okay, this is like this could be too much government interference. This could be turning into thought policing or having a police state or violating people's freedom of expression. It should be a red flag. And just because you're planting a red flag, that doesn't mean you're saying they're doing something wrong. It seems to, but you should be concerned, and you shouldn't dogmatically endorse everything that is anti-Islamic. Just because you hate Islam, just like we hate Islam, that doesn't mean we're going to endorse everything dogmatically. We're going to make sure that keep a watchful eye and make sure that we do not endorse any violations of people's rights. Rivka wanted to go next.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that it remains to be seen how this is going to play out. Remember, this is just the very beginning. They just did this. We're not sure. Everything I've read, I haven't seen exactly what is going to happen next. And they're just, so they're taking these steps and they're moving quickly, but at the same time, I think they're being reticent to act unilaterally. They're saying, with every step, look, this isn't everybody. They're making sure that they're not broad brushing everybody. So I feel like you're correct. We just have to be paying attention, see what's happening when charges are brought. If charges are brought, then what's the next step? And how is that going to happen? And then what are the lawyers saying in court? And then, were people unjustly accused? Were people thrown in jail for just happening to be walking by when they, there's all these things that are going to start happening once these things are implemented in a larger basis. And so I think it's important to look at it in the big picture. But I also think that France absolutely, is within their rights as a nation to do something to stop people from murdering their citizens in the street. They have an obligation to do something. And I think that so far, without, there's a potential slippery slope. We don't know, but so far it seems like they're at least attempting to say and do the right things. And I would like to see more people in Europe and in the Anglo world at least support the intention, if not how it's played out, because we're not 100% sure yet. And I'm not sure France is 100% sure yet of how it's going to go down.
All right.
Yeah, there were some really trash comments on this, on our Facebook post about this. Just insanity.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Yeah.
And subscribe, everyone! Every single one of you is watching. Subscribe. Do it now. Do it now.